The ancient halls of Nexus Station had stood for 10,000 years. 12 species had built it together in the early days of the Galactic Concord, when peace was new and hope was strong. Now those same halls echoed with the voices of beings who had forgotten what peace truly meant. High, Arbiter Verthel stood at the center of the great chamber. His gray skin caught the light of a dozen alien suns that streamed through the crystal ceiling. He was old, even by Kethrani standards, and he had seen many worlds fall under the Concord's authority. Today, he would see another. "The planet is called Earth," he announced, his voice carrying to every corner of the room. A small world in an unremarkable system. The dominant species calls themselves humans. Holographic images filled the air above the council table. Blue oceans, green continents, cities that glowed at night like scattered jewels. And the creatures who built them soft, fragile things with only 2 arms and 2 legs. No claws, no armor, no natural weapons of any kind. Admiral Zethra of the Dominion Fleet leaned forward in her seat. Her scales shimmered with interest. "What is their technology level?" "Primitive," Verthel replied. "Chemical rockets. Nuclear fission. They have not yet discovered faster than light travel. They have not even united their own world. They still fight wars among themselves." Laughter rippled through the chamber. The Vorn ambassador, a creature of living crystal, made a sound like wind chimes in a storm. "They fight each other? How delightfully savage." "Their location is strategic," Verthel continued. "Earth sits at the intersection of 3 major trade routes. Its star system contains abundant resources, rare metals, frozen water, and enough helium-3 to fuel our fleets for centuries." Admiral Zethra's eyes narrowed. She had conquered 37 worlds in her career. She had never lost a battle. "I move for immediate annexation. Send the fleets, secure the system, and relocate the natives to labor camps. We can have the planet producing within a year." "The humans may resist," said the Tolrani ambassador, a being of soft blue light. "Even primitive species can be troublesome. Then we will pacify them." Zethra dismissed the concern with a wave of her clawed hand. "My ships are broken species far more dangerous than these hairless apes. What threat could they possibly pose?" The vote was called. 11 species raised their support. Only the Telrani abstained, their ambassador flickering with uncertainty. But one vote did not matter. The decision was made. Earth would fall, 6,000 light-years away. Jack Morrison was flying his F-35 over the Pacific Ocean. The sun was setting behind him, painting the clouds in shades of orange and gold. It was a quiet evening, the kind that made him grateful for his job. Up here, above the world, everything seemed peaceful. His radio crackled. "Morrison, you seeing this?" Jack looked at his radar. "Nothing unusual." "Seeing what, Control?" "Look up." He tilted his head back and felt his heart stop. The sky was full of lights. Not stars. These were moving, descending, growing larger by the second. Hundreds of them. Thousands. They came through the clouds like a metal rain, each one bigger than an aircraft carrier. Each one covered in weapons that glowed with strange energy. "Control," Jack whispered. "What the hell is that?" The radio exploded with voices. Emergency broadcasts. Panicked commanders. Screaming civilians. Every frequency was the same contact, contact, contact. They were everywhere. Over every continent, every ocean, every major city. Jack Morrison watched the largest ship descend toward the California coast. It was 5 miles long, at least, a mountain of black metal and pulsing lights. It moved without sound, without effort, like gravity was just a suggestion. His training kicked in. He armed his missiles and turned toward the ship. It was suicide, probably. His weapons were designed to fight other jets, not alien battleships. But he was a pilot of the United States Air Force, and something was invading his planet. He never got the chance to fire. A beam of light shot from the alien vessel and passed through his aircraft like it was made of paper. His systems died instantly. The engine cut out. The controls went limp. Jack ejected 3 seconds before his plane hit the water. At the Pentagon, General Kate Sullivan watched the invasion unfold on a wall of screens. She was 54 years old, a veteran of 3 wars, and she had never felt fear like this. Every military base in the world was reporting contact. Every government was in chaos. The aliens had appeared everywhere at once. A coordinated strike that suggested planning, intelligence, and absolute confidence. The transmission came 30 minutes after the first ships arrived. Every screen, every phone, every radio on Earth delivered the same message in every human language. People of Earth, I am High Arbiter Varthol of the Galactic Concord. Your planet has been selected for annexation. You will surrender your governments, your military forces, and your resources within 72 hours. Resistance is not advised. Your technology cannot harm us. Your weapons are toys. Your soldiers are children playing at war. Surrender, and you will be treated with mercy. Resist, and you will be pacified. The choice is yours. The screens went dark. Kate Sullivan stood in silence. Around her, generals and admirals and politicians shouted questions, demanded answers, spoke of surrender, spoke of negotiation, spoke of hope that this was some kind of mistake. She thought about her daughter in college, her son in the Marines, her husband at home, probably watching the same screens, probably wondering if she was alive. She thought about every war humanity had ever fought, every time they had faced impossible odds, every time someone had said they could not win. General Sullivan, the Secretary of Defense, grabbed her arm. What do we do? Kate looked at the screens showing alien warships hovering over her world. She looked at the faces of the men and women who were waiting for her to speak. She thought about what it meant to be human, what it really meant, down in the blood and bone where courage lived. They think we're primitive, she said quietly. They think we're weak. They think we'll break. She turned to face the room. They picked the wrong planet. The room went silent. Get me every military commander on Earth, Kate ordered. Every government, every agency, every soldier with a rifle and a pulse. The aliens gave us 72 hours. She smiled, and there was no warmth in it. Let's show them what humans can do with 72 hours. The invasion of Earth had begun. The aliens expected submission, fear, and surrender. They had no idea what was coming. The first 3 days were hell. Alien ships burned military bases across the globe. Fighter jets fell from the sky like toys. Tanks melted under energy beams that cut through armor like sunlight through fog. The Dominion forces moved with terrible efficiency, destroying anything that looked like resistance. But they made a mistake. They thought destruction meant victory. Lieutenant Commander Sam Tucker sat in the control room of the USS Virginia, a nuclear submarine hiding 300 feet below the Atlantic Ocean. Above him, alien ships patrolled the surface. Their sensors swept the water with strange energies that made his equipment flicker and spark. But they were looking for engines, for reactors, for the heat signatures of human technology. Sam had ordered his crew to go silent. No engines, no active sonar. They drifted in the darkness like a sleeping shark, listening. Sir, his communications officer whispered, we're picking up their transmissions. Sam moved to her station. The alien signals filled the screen complex patterns of light and sound that should have been impossible to understand. But his communications officer, a young woman named Maria Santos, had been working on them for 16 hours straight. Her eyes were red with exhaustion, but her fingers never stopped moving. They're using a rotating encryption, Maria said. But the rotation follows a pattern. Every 8 minutes, it cycles back to the beginning. She looked up at him. I can break it, sir. I just need time. How much time? 6 hours. Maybe less. Sam nodded. You have 4. The world is burning up there, Santos. We need to know what they're saying. 3 hours and 47 minutes later, Maria Santos broke the Dominion encryption. Every submarine in the Atlantic received the codes. Within hours, humanity was listening to every word the aliens said. In a secret facility beneath the Nevada desert, Dr. Amy Lawson had not slept in 4 days. She was a physicist, one of the best in the world, and she had been studying the wreckage of an alien drone that had crashed in the first wave of attacks. The machine was beautiful in its complexity, technology that should have been centuries beyond human understanding. But Amy Lawson was very good at understanding things. The shields, she muttered, staring at her equations. The shields operate on resonant frequencies. They absorb energy at specific wavelengths and redirect it. She grabbed a marker and began writing on the glass wall of her laboratory. But if we match the frequency exactly, if we tune a weapon to resonate with the shield instead of against it. Her assistant, a nervous young man named Paul, watched her with wide eyes. What happens then? Amy smiled. It was not a nice smile. Then the shield doesn't absorb the energy. It amplifies it. Their own defense becomes a bomb. She picked up her phone and called the Pentagon. The first task came over Moscow. A formation of alien cruisers had been circling the city for days, bombarding resistance fighters and demanding surrender. The Russian military was broken, scattered, hiding in the subway tunnels like rats. But Kate Sullivan had sent them something special. 12 cruise missiles, modified with Amy Lawson's frequency technology. They launched from mobile platforms hidden in the forests outside the city, streaking toward the alien formation at twice the speed of sound. The aliens detected them immediately. Their shields activated, glowing with confident energy. They had stopped 1,000 missiles already. These would be no different. The first missile hit the lead cruiser's shield and detonated. For a fraction of a second, the shield tried to absorb the energy. But the frequency was perfect, tuned to the exact resonance of the alien technology. Instead of stopping the explosion, the shield caught it, held it, and magnified it 100 times over. The cruiser vanished in a ball of white fire that lit up the Moscow sky like a second sun. The shockwave knocked 2 more ships spinning out of control. One crashed into the Kremlin, destroying what remained of the ancient building. The other fell into the Moscow River and exploded on impact. The survivors fled. For the first time in the invasion, alien ships ran from human weapons. News of the victory spread across the world in minutes. It spread through the alien fleet even faster. High Arbiter Vazel received the report in his quarters on Nexus Station. He read it 3 times, certain there was some mistake. A Category 2 civilization had destroyed Dominion warships. Primitive chemical missiles had penetrated Dominion shields. This is impossible, he said to himself. They are primitives. They cannot adapt this quickly. But they could. And they did. In the days that followed, humanity transformed. Old enemies stopped fighting each other and started sharing information. American intelligence agencies sent their secrets to Russian commanders. Chinese engineers worked beside European scientists. African soldiers trained with South American guerrillas. The entire species, for the first time in its history, became a single organism with a single purpose. Survival. Admiral Zethra landed her command ship in the ruins of Berlin to personally oversee the European campaign. She was furious. Her fleet had lost 11 ships in the past week, more than she had lost in 30 years of conquest. The humans were learning too fast, adapting too quickly, finding weaknesses that should not exist. They are studying us, she told her officers. Every battle, every engagement, they learn. They capture our technology and improve it. They intercept our communications and decode them. She slammed her fist on the table. They are doing in days what other species take centuries to accomplish. Perhaps we should request reinforcements, one officer suggested. The Third Armada could. I will not ask for help against primitives, Zethra snarled. We have the advantage. We have the technology. We have the numbers. She stood, her scales rippling with determination. We simply need to stop playing with our food. No more surgical strikes. No more careful campaigns. We burn their cities to ash. We kill everything that moves. We show them what the Dominion truly is. She gave the order. The bombardment began that night. Alien ships descended on human cities and opened fire with everything they had. Buildings crumbled. Streets melted. Millions died in hours, but Kate Sullivan had expected this. She had planned for it. While the aliens burned empty buildings and abandoned neighborhoods, humanity was moving underground, into the mountains, into the forests and deserts and frozen wastelands where their ancestors had survived for thousands of years. The aliens thought they were winning. They thought the fires meant victory. They had no idea they were walking into a trap. Jack Morrison recovered from his crash and armed with a captured alien rifle, watched the ships burn his hometown from a hidden bunker in the hills. His hands were steady. His eyes were cold. Enjoy it while you can, he whispered to the distant lights. Your turn is coming. Humanity had drawn first blood. Now they were ready to draw much more. The Third Armada was the pride of the Galactic Concord. 1,500 warships, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built. They came through hyperspace like a storm of metal and fire, answering Admiral Zethra's request for reinforcements with overwhelming force. High Arbiter Vothel himself ordered the deployment. The Council could not afford to lose on Earth. If a primitive species defeated the Dominion fleet, every conquered world would see it. Every subjugated people would remember it. The Empire would crack from within. So they sent everything. Admiral Zethra watched the Armada arrive from her command ship in orbit. 1,500 vessels filled the space between Earth and its moon, blocking out the stars with their massive hulls. She felt her confidence return. No species in history had survived this kind of force. Earth would fall within the week. Begin the ground assault, she ordered. I want troops in every city. I want every human who can hold a weapon dead or in chains. The landing began. On Earth, Kate Sullivan stood in a bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Around her, screens showed the alien ships descending on cities across the globe. New York, London, Tokyo, Beijing. Thousands of transports carrying millions of soldiers, all pouring down onto human soil. They took the bait, she said quietly. Colonel Derek Hayes nodded. He was a big man, scarred from years of combat, and his eyes held the kind of calm that came from accepting death. Operation Tombstone is ready, General. Just give the word. Kate watched the screens for a long moment. She thought about the people who were still in those cities, the volunteers who had stayed behind, knowing they would probably die. Soldiers, civilians, old men and young children who had refused to leave their homes. Give the word, she said. Derek picked up his radio. All units, this is Tombstone Actual. Execute. In Chicago, Captain Jack Morrison led his battalion through the empty streets. The aliens were landing in Grant Park. Thousands of troops pouring out of massive transports. Their armor gleamed in the afternoon sun. Their weapons hummed with deadly energy. They moved with the confidence of conquerors who had never known defeat. Jack watched them from the window of an abandoned skyscraper. His soldiers were hidden throughout the city, in subway tunnels, in basements, in the shells of burned-out buildings. Each one carried a detonator. Each one knew the plan. Wait for it, Jack whispered into his radio. Let them get comfortable. Let them think they've won. The aliens spread through the city. They searched buildings. They set up command posts. They reported back to their ships that Chicago was secure, that resistance was minimal, that the humans had fled. They were wrong. Sergeant Nicole Brennan pressed her detonator from a hidden room in the subway system. The first explosion tore through a building on Michigan Avenue, bringing it down on top of an alien platoon. The second explosion hit a transport as it was landing, turning it into a fireball that lit up the lake shore. The third, fourth, and fifth explosions came so fast they blended into one continuous roar of destruction. Every building in the city center had been rigged to blow. Every tunnel had been filled with explosives. Every street had been mined. Every sewer line packed with chemicals that turned the underground into a toxic nightmare. The aliens had walked into a city-sized bomb, and now it was detonating around them. Similar scenes played out across the world. In London, the subway system flooded with nerve agents stolen from old military stockpiles. In Tokyo, the streets opened up and swallowed entire formations of alien troops into pits lined with burning fuel. In Moscow, the survivors of the first attack emerged from hiding and fell on the alien forces with captured weapons and homemade explosives. Admiral Zethra watched the casualty. Reports pour in and felt something she had never experienced before. Fear. They turned their cities into weapons, she breathed. They destroyed their own homes to kill our soldiers. We are losing 10,000 troops per hour, her tactical officer reported. Ground forces are requesting immediate evacuation. Denied. Zethra's voice was hard. We have the numbers. We will overwhelm them. But she was wrong. The numbers meant nothing when every step forward led into another trap. The humans were not fighting a war. They were conducting a controlled demolition of everything the aliens touched. In the Rocky Mountains, a different kind of operation was underway. Commander Ryan Peters had spent 6 months building a network of guerrilla cells, each one trained to capture alien prisoners and equipment. Now that training paid off. The pilot is talking, Ryan reported to Kate Sullivan. Their flagship is in lunar orbit. It's called the Dominion's Fist, and it carries Admiral Zethra herself. Kate leaned forward. Can we reach it? Not with our current weapons. But Dr. Lawson has been working on something. Ryan paused. She calls it a spatial displacement bomb. It folds space itself into a singularity. Anything caught in the field is crushed into nothing. How do we deliver it? That's the problem. The bomb is too unstable for missiles, too delicate for remote piloting. Someone has to fly it directly into the flagship and detonate it manually. Kate closed her eyes. She knew what that meant. A one-way mission. A suicide run. We have volunteers, Ryan said quietly. More than we need. Lieutenant Jake Donovan was 26 years old. He had been a test pilot before the invasion, flying experimental aircraft that no sane person would touch. He had a wife in a refugee camp in Canada, a daughter he had never met, born 3 weeks after the aliens arrived. He volunteered anyway. Someone has to do it, he told Kate when she asked him why. And I am the best pilot we have. If anyone can get that bomb to the flagship, it's me. Kate looked at him for a long moment. She saw the fear in his eyes, buried deep beneath the courage. She saw the sacrifice he was making, the future he was giving up. Your daughter will know what you did, she said. The whole world will know. Jake smiled. It was a sad smile, but it was real. Then make sure we win, General. Make sure it means something. The stealth craft launched from a hidden base in Alaska 3 days later. It carried one pilot, one bomb, and the hopes of an entire species. Jake Donovan flew toward the moon, and humanity held its breath. Jake Donovan's craft was small, barely larger than a car. It had no weapons, no shields, no fancy technology. Just a cockpit, an engine, and the most destructive device humanity had ever created strapped to its belly. The alien fleet filled the space, ahead of him like a field of metal stars. 1,500 ships, each one bristling with sensors and weapons designed to detect and destroy any threat. Jake's heart pounded in his chest as he cut his engines and began to drift. The plan was simple. The aliens relied on technology to find their enemies, heat signatures, energy readings, electromagnetic emissions. Jake's craft produced none of these. He was flying dark, using only chemical thrusters and manual navigation, drifting through the fleet like a piece of space debris. It should not have worked. The odds were impossible. But Jake Donovan was the best pilot humanity had ever produced. And he had something the aliens did not. Desperation. Hours passed. Jake drifted through the outer perimeter of the fleet, past destroyers and cruisers and massive carrier ships that blocked out the stars. His breathing was the only sound in the cockpit. His hands trembled on the controls, but his mind was clear. He thought about his wife, Sarah. He thought about his daughter, Emma, who he had only seen in photographs. He thought about the world he was leaving behind, the blue planet hanging in the darkness, still fighting, still hoping. "This is for you," he whispered. "All of you." The flagship appeared ahead of him. The Dominion's Fist was the largest ship in the fleet, a behemoth of black metal and glowing weapons that stretched for miles in every direction. Admiral Zethra herself was aboard, directing the invasion from the safety of her command center. Jake adjusted his course and began his final approach. Inside the flagship, Admiral Zethra studied the battle reports with growing frustration. Her ground forces were being slaughtered on Earth. Every city they entered became a death trap. Every victory turned into a defeat. The humans were not surrendering. They were adapting, changing, becoming more dangerous with every passing hour. "How is this possible?" she demanded. "They are primitives. They should have broken days ago." Her tactical officer hesitated before answering. "Admiral, our analysis suggests that we misunderstood the humans. They are not like other species we have conquered. They do not surrender when facing superior force. They become more aggressive. That is irrational." "Yes, Admiral. But they do not seem to care about rationality. They care about winning. At any cost." Zethra opened her mouth to respond, but she never got the chance. The alarm started screaming. Jake Donovan's craft slipped through the flagship's outer defenses and entered the main hangar bay. He had 30 seconds before the aliens figured out what was happening. 30 seconds to find the reactor core. 30 seconds to end the war. He saw it ahead, a massive structure pulsing with energy, the heart of the greatest warship in the Dominion fleet. Jake pressed the detonation trigger and closed his eyes. "I love you, Sarah. I love you. Emma, tell them I." The spatial displacement bomb activated. Physics itself screamed in protest as a pocket of space, the size of a football field, collapsed into a point smaller than an atom. The reactor core was caught in the field, compressed, crushed, and then released in a burst of energy that defied description. The Dominion's Fist died in a flash of white light that could be seen from Earth. The explosion tore through the heart of the Third Armada. Ships too close to the flagship were vaporized instantly. Ships farther away were thrown spinning into each other, their hulls cracking, their reactors failing. In the space of 30 seconds, 600 warships were destroyed or disabled. Admiral Zethra died never understanding what had happened. Her last thought was a single word, repeated over and over in her mind. Impossible. On Earth. Kate Sullivan watched the explosion bloom on her screens. Around her, commanders and soldiers stared in disbelief as the alien flagship vanished and the fleet scattered in panic. "He did it," someone whispered. "The crazy bastard actually did it." Kate bowed her head for a moment, honoring the man who had given everything. Then she raised it again, her eyes hard. Now we finish this. Launch the fleet. Across the globe, hidden bunkers opened and revealed humanity's secret weapon. For months, underground factories had been working around the clock, building ships from captured alien technology and human engineering. They were not as large as Dominion vessels, not as elegant or powerful. But they were fast, they were deadly, and they were piloted by humans who had nothing left to lose. Major Lisa Grant led the first squadron into orbit. She was flying a hybrid fighter built from the wreckage of alien craft, armed with weapons that combined human missiles with alien energy technology. Behind her, 500 more ships rose from Earth, like angry wasps defending their hive. The surviving alien commanders watched in horror as the humans came for them. This was not supposed to happen. Category: 2 civilizations did not build space fleets. They did not launch counterattacks. They did not hunt their conquerors. But humanity had never read the rules. Commander Ethan Price led his squadron through the scattered remains of the Third Armada. His voice was calm on the radio, almost peaceful. All units weapons free. Take them apart. The Battle of Earth's orbit lasted 6 hours. Human pilots flew with a precision and aggression that the aliens could not match. They knew every weakness in the Dominion technology, every gap in their shields, every blind spot in their sensors. They had studied their enemy, learned from them, and now they were using that knowledge to destroy them. When it was over, the Third Armada was broken. Less than 200 ships remained, fleeing toward the edge of the solar system, broadcasting desperate calls for help that would never be answered. Kate Sullivan's message reached Nexus Station that same night. High Arbiter Varthol received it in the council chamber, surrounded by the leaders of 11 species who had voted for Earth's destruction. "We are coming," Kate said, her face filling every screen in the station. "Not to surrender, not to negotiate. We are coming to take our place among the stars. And if anyone tries to stop us, they will learn what humanity learned long ago." She paused, and her smile was cold. War is not about technology. It is not about numbers. It is about will. And our will cannot be broken. The transmission ended. The council sat in silence. The hunters had become the hunted, and humanity was just getting started. The survivors of the Third Armada ran for Mars. The Red Planet had been their forward base since the invasion began. A staging ground filled with fuel depots, repair facilities, and enough supplies to sustain 1,000 ships for years. If they could reach it, they could regroup. They could rebuild. They could wait for reinforcements from the homeworlds. They never got the chance. Colonel Megan Shaw had been on Mars for 3 weeks. She and her team had arrived aboard a stolen alien shuttle, disguised as a routine supply delivery. While the Dominion forces focused on Earth, Megan had been busy, very busy. "Charges are set," her demolitions expert reported. "Every fuel depot, every ammunition storage, every repair bay. We can blow this whole base to hell whenever you give the word." Megan watched the alien ships approaching through the thin Martian atmosphere. Hundreds of them, limping and damaged, desperate for the safety of their base. She thought about the families who had died on Earth, the cities that had burned, the friends she had lost in the first days of the invasion. "Wait until they land," she said. "I want them to think they're safe. I want them to feel relief. And then I want to take it all away." The alien ships touched down across the Martian surface. Crews emerged to assess damage and begin repairs. Commanders gathered to discuss strategy and plan their next move. For the first time in weeks, they allowed themselves to relax. Megan pressed the detonator. The Martian base vanished in a chain of explosions that lit up the planet like a second sun. Fuel depots erupted, sending rivers of burning plasma across the landing fields. Ammunition stores detonated, tearing ships apart from the inside. Buildings collapsed, burying thousands of alien soldiers under tons of rubble and twisted metal. Admiral Zethra had died over Earth, but her replacement lasted only 15 minutes longer. His ship took a direct hit from an exploding fuel line and crashed into the Martian desert, killing everyone aboard. By the time the fire stopped, the Third Armada was gone. Not defeated, erased. 1,500 ships, millions of soldiers. The greatest military force the Galactic Concord had ever assembled. Reduced to wreckage and ash by a species they had called primitive. The news reached Nexus Station 3 days later. High Arbiter Verthel read the report in silence, his gray hands trembling. Around him, the council members sat in stunned disbelief. "This cannot be," the Vorn ambassador whispered. They were primitives. They had no fleet, no weapons, no experience with space warfare. "They learned," Verthel said quietly. "They learned faster than any species in recorded history. They took our technology, improved it, and used it against us." He looked up at the assembly. "We made a mistake. We thought conquest was a matter of power. We forgot that it is also a matter of will." The Tyranny ambassador spoke, his form flickering with agitation. "We warned you. We abstained from the vote. We said the humans would be troublesome. Troublesome." Verthel laughed, but there was no humor in it. "They destroyed the Third Armada. They killed Admiral Zethra. They have ships now, weapons now, and they are coming here." He stood, his ancient body suddenly seeming very tired. "We did not conquer Earth. We awoke something terrible, and now it is coming for us. Then we must surrender," the Vorn ambassador said. "We must offer peace before they reach us." The council voted. This time, the decision was unanimous. Kate Sullivan received the surrender offer 6 hours later. She read it carefully, her face expressionless, and then she gathered her commanders for a final briefing. "They want peace," she said. "They want to pretend this never happened. They want us to go back to our little planet and leave them alone." "And what do we want?" Jack Morrison asked. He had risen through the ranks during the war, from a pilot who got shot down on the first day to a commander who had led the assault on Mars. His eyes were hard, his voice harder. Kate smiled. "We want a seat at the table. We want them to look at us and see equals, not victims. We want them to remember what they did to us, and to know that we will never let it happen again." She pressed a button, and a hologram of Nexus Station appeared in the air before them. "We're going to accept their surrender, but we're going to do it in person. I want every ship we have in that system. I want them to see what they created when they voted to invade our home." The human fleet arrived at Nexus Station 1 month later. 500 warships led by the HSS Defiance, the rebuilt flagship of what had once been the Dominion Third Armada. The council watched them come through their viewport, a wall of metal and weapons that blocked out the stars. Ambassador Ben Howard walked into the council chamber alone. He was a small man, quiet, unremarkable. Before the invasion, he had been a history professor at a university in Ohio. During the war, he had coordinated resistance cells across 3 continents. Now he carried the weight of his entire species on his shoulders. The council rose as he entered. 12 species, some standing, some floating, some existing as patterns of light or living crystal. They looked at him with fear and respect and something that might have been shame. Ben took his seat, the chair that had once belonged to the Dominion. It was empty now. Their civilization had collapsed in the Civil War, their people turning on each other as their empire crumbled around them. "Humanity is here," Ben said simply. "Not as conquerors, not as victims, as equals." He reached into his pocket and withdrew a small glass sphere. Inside was a handful of soil mixed with ashes earth from every continent on the planet, combined with the remains of those who had died defending it. "We carry our dead with us," he said. Jake Donovan, who flew a bomb into the heart of your fleet. The volunteers who stayed behind in our cities, knowing they would die. The soldiers and civilians who refused to surrender, even when surrender seemed like the only choice. He placed the sphere on the table before him. They gave everything so that we could sit in this room. We will not waste their sacrifice. High Arbiter Vuffle spoke, his voice trembling. What do you want from us? Ben looked at him for a long moment. We want you to remember. We want every species in this council to know what happens when you underestimate humanity. We want our children to grow up in a galaxy where no one will ever try to conquer them again. He stood, and his voice carried to every corner of the ancient chamber. You called us primitive. You voted to turn our home into a colony. Instead, you turned it into something else. He smiled, and there was no mercy in it. You turned it into a tomb for your arrogance, your assumptions, and your belief that strength is the only thing that matters. He looked at each council member in turn. We are humanity. We do not break. We do not surrender. We adapt, we overcome, and we remember. He paused. Vote carefully next time. The council had no response. They simply sat in silence as Ambassador Ben Howard took his seat among them, representing a species that had gone from prey to predator in less than a year. Earth had survived. Humanity had risen, and the galaxy would never be the same.